Property taxes in Florida could disappear entirely within 18 months. Governor Ron DeSantis is pushing the most radical tax reform in American history, and it could fundamentally reshape how you buy, sell, and invest in Florida real estate. Here's what's actually happening right now. In March 2025, DeSantis stood at the Florida Realtor headquarters in Orlando and announced a $1,000 property tax rebate for every homesteaded property in the state. That's 5.1 million properties getting checks worth $5.1 billion total. But here's the kicker. This isn't the end game. It's just the warm-up act for a constitutional amendment in 2026 that would eliminate property taxes completely. And folks, this isn't political theater. The Florida House just created a select committee on property taxes in May 2025, chaired by Representative Toby Overdorf. And they're working through the summer and fall to put concrete proposals on the 2026 ballot. We're talking about replacing $55 billion in annual property tax revenue, that's billion with a B, with sales tax increases that could double Florida's rate from 6 to 12%. Now, before you start celebrating or panicking, let me walk you through what this actually means for your wallet, your investment strategy, and the Florida housing market that's already turned upside down. Let's start with the current reality. Florida's median home price is $412,600 in May 2025. And while that's down 1.9% year over year, don't let that fool you into thinking homes are affordable. Property taxes have exploded 60% over the last 5 years statewide. We're talking about a 47.5% increase just from 2019 to 2024, with another 9.5% jump in the last year alone. When you buy that $412,600 median home today, you're looking at property taxes that have nearly doubled in a decade. Here's where it gets personal. If you're buying in Miami-Dade County, you're paying an effective rate of 1.02% on a median home price of $560,000. That's $5,712 per year in property taxes alone. Add Florida's infamous homeowners insurance, averaging $10,996 annually, which is 4.6 times the national average, and you're looking at nearly $17,000 per year just to keep the government and insurance companies happy. For a typical buyer putting 10% down with a 6.5% mortgage, that property tax and insurance bill adds $1,400 to your monthly payment. But here's what most people don't understand about DeSantis' proposal. The $1,000 rebate that grabbed headlines? The legislature already rejected it. House Speaker Daniel Perez called it just state taxpayers apologizing for local government spending, which is the kind of irresponsible idea I associate with California policymakers. Ouch. What's actually moving forward is far from radical. The House Select Committee is considering 5 major proposals, and they're not messing around. They want local referendums to eliminate homestead property taxes entirely. They're proposing a $500,000 property tax exemption for non-school taxes. They want to give the legislature power to increase homestead exemptions without voter approval. They're talking about capping assessment increases at a flat 3% over 3 years. And here's the big one. They want to eliminate the government's ability to foreclose on your home for unpaid property taxes. Now, if you're a homeowner thinking this sounds too good to be true, you're probably right. Let's talk about what happens when $55 billion in local revenue disappears overnight. First, your local services. Property taxes fund 50 to 73% of school district budgets across Florida. They pay for your police departments, fire departments, emergency services, roads, parks, and libraries. In Oviedo, 100% of the $22 million budget for police and fire comes from property taxes. In Palm Beach County, property taxes generate over $5 billion annually for schools, fire departments, libraries, and parks. Sarasota's general fund gets $49.5 million from property taxes, with $48 million going directly to police services. And here's the math that should really worry you. To replace that $55 billion, Florida would need to double its sales tax rate from 6 to at least 12%. Combined with local sales taxes, you'd be looking at total rates exceeding 14% in some areas. That would make Florida the highest sales tax state in the nation, surpassing even California and New York. And here's where it gets interesting for investors and buyers. Property values don't exist in a vacuum. When you eliminate property taxes, you're fundamentally changing the value proposition of Florida real estate. Suzanne Hollander, a real estate professor at FIU, argues this could drive property values even higher by attracting more investment. But Redfin economist Chen Zhao warns that buyers might start worrying about the quality of local services, which could actually hurt property values in the long run. Let me give you some real numbers from the current market to put this in perspective. Tampa's median home price is around $485,000, down 4.05% year over year, with homes sitting on the market for 52 days compared to 23 days last year. Orlando hit $400,000 median prices, and for the first time in 14 years has a 6-month housing supply. Jacksonville sits at $383,000 median, with the most affordable cost structure among major Florida metros. If property taxes disappear, these dynamics change overnight. Wealthy areas like Naples, where the median is already $699,608, or Key West at $1.075 million, might maintain service quality through alternative funding mechanisms. But what happens to working class communities that depend entirely on property tax revenue? Please take 2 seconds to help me out and hit the like and subscribe if you find this video interesting so far. Each like, subscribe, and share helps support this channel and keeps us motivated to keep making you great content. Thank you. Now, let's continue. Here's what every investor needs to understand. This creates a 2-tier system. Properties in wealthy areas that can maintain services through homeowner associations, special districts, or wealthy residents will likely see value increases. Properties in areas dependent on government services could see relative value declines as service quality deteriorates. And let's be honest about who wins and loses here. If you own a $2 million waterfront property in Miami Beach, eliminating your $20,000 annual property tax bill is a massive windfall. If you're a first-time buyer stretching to afford a $300,000 home in Jacksonville, that doubled sales tax hits you every time you buy groceries, gas, or furniture for your new place. The numbers on affordability are already brutal. Only 20% of home purchases in Florida are by first-time buyers, a historic low. The median home price requires an income of roughly $150,000 to qualify for a conventional mortgage at current rates. Eliminating property taxes might reduce monthly carrying costs, but if it drives up home prices through increased demand, you're not actually improving affordability for new buyers. Now here's the timeline that matters for your decisions. The constitutional amendment needs 60% voter approval, and it's targeting the November 2026 ballot. That means if you're buying or selling Florida real estate in the next 18 months, you're making decisions in a market that could fundamentally change. But let's look at the political reality. Every other state that's tried this has failed. North Dakota voters rejected property tax elimination with 63% opposition in 2024. Nebraska's proposal failed to make the ballot. No state in America has successfully eliminated property taxes because the math doesn't work. Florida Tax Watch Senior VP Kurt Wenner found that some municipalities get up to 98.3% of their funding from property taxes. The Florida Policy Institute warns that elimination would strip local governments of their fiscal independence. The Tax Foundation calls outright repeal unsound, and it warns it would undermine the state's economic competitiveness. Here's what smart investors and buyers should be watching. First, the House Select Committee's final recommendations due in January 2026. Second, whether the 2026 legislature actually puts amendments on the ballot. Third, polling data as we get closer to the election. If you're a current homeowner, the immediate impact of any property tax reduction is positive cash flow. But if you're planning to sell, you need to consider whether elimination might create a buying frenzy that drives prices up before implementation, followed by uncertainty about service quality. If you're looking to buy, timing becomes critical. The current market has 233,518 homes available statewide as of May 2025, up 13.9% year over year, giving buyers more negotiating power. Homes are sitting an average of 67 days on the market, up 12 days from last year. This buyer-friendly environment could shift rapidly if property tax elimination gains momentum. For investors, this creates both opportunity and risk. Rental properties would benefit from lower carrying costs, but you'd face higher costs for materials, services, and renovations due to increased sales taxes. The rental market is already showing signs of cooling, with statewide rents down $100 from last year to a median of $2,500. Here's our take after looking at all the data. Partial property tax relief is politically possible and economically beneficial. Complete elimination is politically unlikely and economically risky. The most probable outcome is increased homestead exemptions, maybe from the current $50,000 to $75,000 or $100,000, combined with assessment caps and targeted relief programs. But here's what you need to do right now. If you're buying, factor in current property tax rates and insurance costs, but don't bank on elimination when making affordability calculations. If you're selling, consider whether waiting until 2026 makes sense if elimination looks likely to pass. If you're investing, focus on markets and property types that would remain attractive even with reduced local services. The bottom line is this. Florida's property tax system needs reform, but elimination is a radical solution to a complex problem. The housing market is already stressed, with insurance costs averaging nearly $11,000 annually and first-time buyers locked out of homeownership. Adding the uncertainty of a complex tax overhaul doesn't help affordability. It just creates more volatility in a market that's already unpredictable. What do you think about this? Watch the politics, follow the select committee recommendations, and make your real estate decisions based on current market realities, not campaign promises. Because in Florida real estate, the only thing you can count on is that change is constant, and the next crisis is always just one hurricane season away. If you found this video interesting, please subscribe, share, and watch this one as well.